Good morning, everyone. Happy January 20th, which is Martin Luther King Jr. Day and also Inauguration Day. And we are so happy you joined us. There's my co-host, Rodney Allen Rippey.
How's it going? Good morning, everybody.
And our guests, Mia and Victor Pyle from painunwasted.org. Excuse me. And we are so glad they're with us this morning. I can't wait for y'all to hear about their journey. I can't wait to hear about it because I haven't heard the full details either, and I'm just so excited for that. So, but before we begin on that, good morning, Carrie, and all of you who are joining us right now. Oh, Carrie says Michael is keeping them late in class, so some of them are still coming around to join us. But Rodney, if you don't mind, I would like for you to give everyone that brief update on the LA fires that you were giving me before we started the show, because I know everyone is interested.
Well, it really seems as though things are getting a little bit more under control. Thank goodness the winds have died down. It seems as though they got out ahead of the fire and started doing what they call controlled burn areas. So they burn all the vegetation ahead of it. So when the fire gets there, it just stops. Thank goodness, they have all the fire line behind the controlled burn area, so they stop it and wet everything down. So it seems as though that they're getting a handle on things. It is one of those things that the devastation, I got an estimate. They said that they have figured out right now, and the numbers are still climbing. There were about 29 people who died in the fires, as well as over 12,000 homes and structures were burned. 12,000. So the amount of rebuilding, truthfully, these areas that were on fire are going to be completely different. The whole layout, the topography, what was there, these whole areas are going to change. And that's what a lot of people are really heartbroken over, because they're like, my grocery store used to be there. What's going to be there? So a lot of people are having some very heavy emotional things on top of the toll of losing friends, family, and so much more. So hopefully all we can do is pray for the people, pray that they get as much assistance as possible. A colleague of mine, Dan Pettigrew, we're focusing on a emergency kit for the senior citizens. And so we're in a process right now of trying to work on a distribution of over 25,000 emergency kits.
Oh, that's awesome.
To senior citizens, starting out with senior citizens, because they were some of our most vulnerable, and they were, as you would imagine, some of the least prepared. Hopefully I'll keep you posted on that, but overall things are good, and as good as it can be. And so God bless everybody. Thank you for asking about that, Nina.
Well, it's very nice to know at least that the fires are starting to wane.
Yeah.
And, so recovery can begin. And I did hear yesterday, I also mentioned this is Inauguration Day, and I heard yesterday that one of the first visits our new president is going to make, his first trip as the new president, is going to be to Los Angeles.
He got some of his biggest contributors out here, and I'm sure that he will want to come and see the constituents here. Hopefully, it's going to create a great opportunity for the mayor, the governor. These people are not looking too swift right about now, and so hopefully the president, when he comes into town, will shift the energy not only for the people, but for the political structure here in California, and hopefully it's going to bring some real serious change. So we're going to see what's happening. It's on time now. Everybody, all hands are on deck. So hopefully we're going to see some great changes here in California.
Amen. Everyone keep praying for LA.
Yep.
Yeah. Keep praying. All right. Well, let's get into what we're actually here for today. We've got Mia and Victor here with us, and we
Mhm.
invited them to come back so that we could hear their story together. Now, for those of you who have not been on here before, and I am seeing some new names. Oh, by the way, good morning, Elvira and Aldona and
Mm.
Sabrina. We're so glad you all joined us, and more people coming in all the time. Mia, for those who have not been here before, would you start back at the beginning? It's not
Mm.
the very beginning, but back at the beginning, I think, of where you had been telling us about the personal trauma that you had endured and what that gave rise to, and then how Victor plays into this story.
No.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful to have my king and prince here with me today. And thank you so much for the updates as well about what's happening, because we definitely want to know, especially for you, Rodney, firsthand. And
Mhm.
I'm excited for those watching the show today, because I believe many of us are traumatized by what's
Oh yeah.
happening, going on. And so we're hoping that you'll have some tools that you walk away with. For me, I grew up in a home that was happy, but there was also a lot of abuse. And so right
Mhm.
from the foundation, there's cracks in it. And just fast forwarding, I personally would be assaulted by a friend of a brother, and then later down the line, our family would experience my one of my siblings, a sister. She was abducted. She was abducted by a group of people. They took her, did all the horrible things, and then they left her for dead on the side of the road. And I remember thinking that our family must be cursed, because I didn't hear of things like this happening to other families. And I didn't grow up Christian. However, I had at that point in my life become a Christian. And I had this misconception that God must be punishing me and my family for something that I don't even know about. Right. And
Mhm,
I
mhm,
wonder if people in California and other places, sometimes when trauma happens, that's our default. We think that God must be doing something to us. And,
Right.
people say things like that. Oh, God must be trying to get your attention. Or,
Right.
I wonder what happened, that made this happen. And so everything kind of culminated and came to a head. Victor and I would be married, of course.
Mhm.
We would be married for 10 years before we had our first child, because I was just so afraid. I was
Right.
deathly afraid, like, if these things have happened in my family, what's going to happen if I ever have kids? I'm never going to have kids.
Mm.
But I did
Mm.
wind up having a child, and with that came postpartum and the eruption of the past. And now I could no longer run from it. And so I became extremely paranoid, and I realized now that I was experiencing psychosis. I started to think that, wherever I went, in Walmart, Publix, Target, that there were people there waiting to abduct me and my newborn baby. And I would have meltdowns,
mhm.
literally.
Right.
And I would stay up all night trying to cope with food, and especially chocolate, which, does not help you go to sleep. And so
Mhm.
on top of that, I became manic. And I don't know how far into the story I should. I think that's a pretty good canvas to start on.
Right.
I really want to underpin the importance of when we have misconceptions, because I really felt like
Mhm.
everything was spiraling down for me, because even though I had been a missionary for over 15 years before this happened, I'd seen people baptized by the thousands. I'd seen people who you would call demon possessed. I'd seen them be recovered and following God. I mean,
Mhm.
I helped to run a very lucrative and successful nonprofit before this, but
Hmm.
it would all culminate in me going to the behavioral health hospital, where people call it the crazy house, and really trying to figure out, what do I believe now, and where do I go from here? Do I even want to live anymore through this experience? And
Mhm.
so I'll pause and
Mm. Thank you so much for your candor
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I really appreciate that, and particularly I don't know if pardon me for coughing. I don't know if other people are like me. Sometimes I think I kind of la-la'd through my life, just with my head in the clouds, not really realizing a lot of things. But it's very easy for me to empathize with things that I read in the paper. I imagine your sister's story had been in the paper some.
Right.
I read those things in the paper. And I think a lot of people, because the paper doesn't usually give you anything much after that, except for maybe the person was found, they're back with their family.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, that's the end of the story. And you tend to think, oh, I know they're all so relieved. And then you think they're just living a nice life after that. And you don't realize the trauma that
Mhm.
everyone has internalized in the entire family, and then what they're living with after that.
Absolutely.
And the aftermath of that, what it can do to you. So, and
Mhm.
by this time, of course, you had married.
Mhm.
And so now Victor is involved
Mm.
in this story. So, Victor, I'd love to
Wow.
hear from you what your take was on what was happening.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you both, Rodney and Nina, for having me on the show. And I'm thankful for my beautiful wife. It's been almost 19 years, going on 19 years of marriage.
Wow.
Still
Yeah.
have, so really
And they
great.
don't hardly look old enough for that, do they? I'm serious. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. I have what I call late onset adulthood. And so if that means anything, I haven't looked that up. I just made it up. But anyway, getting
Yet
to the
somehow
story.
we all know what that means right
Yeah.
away. Yes, I think we do. Yeah.
Mhm.
But wow, this is quite an opportunity to share. I don't share often, but I know somebody out here needs to hear this because, from the view of a supporter that doesn't necessarily know what to do in these situations, especially as a husband, as men, we like to fix situations, fix cars, we fix leaky faucets, we try to fix our wives. That doesn't really work too much, but particularly in a situation like this, I was clueless. I mean, we were married for 10 years. We were both working in the nonprofit, traveling the world, doing, relief work and local work and things like that. And so, you know, even on some of these trips, particularly in the U.S., where we visit juvenile detention centers and
Mhm.
schools and at-risk communities, Mia would share, some of her past experiences, but it seemed like it was from a place of strength. Yes,
Mm.
I was assaulted and so on and so forth, but you know, I'm recovered and you can too, and that type of thing. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking all is well, and so did she, and
Yeah.
so before we got married, I think probably when we were engaged, we talked about kids. How many kids do you want? How many kids do you want? I
Mm.
wanted 6, and she wanted none.
Wow. Big
Yeah,
family.
and
And you run your own basketball team. A little bit of basketball.
I was thinking more of a family band. I'm kind of musical. And,
Okay.
I,
That'll work.
yeah, but she wasn't zero. And so, she'd bring up the conversation from time to time once we were married, because we went into marriage knowing this, and just checking in to see how I felt. And I said,
Mhm.
"Well, I still want kids, I still
Wow.
don't." And like, okay, I wasn't gonna be one to like force my will, like that just didn't, yeah, it just was my thing. So
Mhm.
we would bring it up, but it was never an argument. We would discuss and that type of thing. But we still both
Beautiful.
felt how we felt. So and she mentioned it earlier, just with the traumas that she and family members had been through. She didn't want
Right.
to bring any two kids to have to go through all of that. And my
Mhm.
thing was, well, we're both missionaries. We're both working for the Lord. What if we were to raise up, um, more soldiers in the army of God? And so we pray, we think, we talk, and this is how it went for about
Years.
7 years.
For years.
And so just to speed through some unnecessary details. So we finally have our child, and
Mhm.
this is after, God speaking to her, asking her why she's afraid and kind of trying to deal with that. So the day she told me, I think I want to have a child, I was like, oh, you?
What just happened? Yeah.
Right. And so I said, well, let's, before there's a mental shift on that, and so
Mhm.
January 2017, having our first child. And she's told me the story. There were, issues. There was emergency C-section because there was low fluid in the amniotic sac and all this stuff. And it was a rough experience going in. And so when now she's kind of depressed and paranoid, like I didn't really know what to do. I'm thinking,
Mhm.
okay, it's the hormones,
Right.
And to inject something there,
Mhm.
because the paranoia, and this is important for those of us who do have family members that battle with their mental
Mhm.
health. Paranoia doesn't always look the way we think. So I didn't think I had paranoia. I just knew I didn't want anyone to touch the baby. I didn't want anyone to hold the baby, and I'm
Mm.
protection, the baby's sick, I don't want the baby to get sick. But I know in the back of my mind, well, I'm scared. Are you gonna touch my baby? Are you gonna do something wrong to the baby? And that just grew from there. So it started small and it became overwhelmingly controlling.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times when we're believing things that are basically lies,
Yeah.
we lie
Mhm.
first to ourselves and we don't realize it.
Yeah,
We think we're telling ourselves the truth. So it's often hard to spot in
absolutely.
ourselves.
Absolutely.
If I want to jump in real quick, so are both of you certified in with pain unwasted? Did you also go to school, Victor, as well? Are you also certified as well?
Um, I'll try to retranslate the question. We've co-founded Pain Unwasted.
Okay. Now I know Mia, has
First
went.
Yeshua.
Yes. So I'm not an instructor of mental health first aid. I was one of his
Okay.
students.
Mhm.
And so
Okay. Wonderful.
I'll
Okay.
check back on that. But I am a mental health first aider. Um,
Okay.
I'm not certified to train, but I have learned
Mhm.
the information and know how to use it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I was just thinking because you guys are such a dynamic duo, and I was thinking like, wow, hey, see me, I'm working for you. I'm trying to get him brother man certified. Get brother man
I've thought
certified.
about it. I've thought about it, and maybe one day
Didn't
it'll
mean to put more work on you. Sorry about that, but just thought I'd throw that in.
hey, it's all good. If I could do Pain Unwasted full time, I would. But
Hey,
in time.
So pray for that.
Yes.
yeah.
That's it.
Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So So first child, all these issues, just fear, and I didn't really, I didn't really catch it. I knew she was,
Hmm.
kind of close, but that type of thing happens with some moms after pregnancy. Uh,
Right.
but things just kind of slowly
Hmm.
just were spiraling, especially
Right.
just months later in the spring. There were two tragic deaths
In our family.
in on Mia's side, and one was a murder. The other one was actually a suicide, and
It's true.
and it was a close family member.
Yeah.
And so I just started seeing her spiral, and
Hmm.
was talking about pretty much. At this point, she wasn't talking suicide, like
Hmm.
just thinking, just questioning God and asking
Right.
those why questions,
Right.
and that happens for a lot of people, myself, like, why did God allow this?
Right.
And
Right.
I had no answers for her. I
Mhm.
had nothing and just tried to support the best way I could while really not knowing what we were dealing with.
Hmm.
Um, and so when there were talks of not wanting to live anymore or things like that,
Hmm.
I started getting, afraid and
Hmm.
paranoid myself, but paranoid is
Hmm.
and like she's not gonna do this. She said she wouldn't do this, like,
Right.
and so here we are now. It's July of 2017, so this is about
Mhm.
7 months, 6 7 months, and I was at this time we had our organization had opened a station 3 hours away from Huntsville in Sawyerville, Alabama.
Mhm.
Um, but it was in the country, in the sticks, as some people say. And
Yeah.
at this point, with all that she was, going through, she felt it was kind of isolating, and so
Mhm.
she stayed with some of my family in Huntsville, and so I'm kind of doing a back and forth thing. So it's July 18th, 2017.
And I want to just insert, the longer the delay, the more difficult recovery can be. So
Mhm.
we want to think about that when we're thinking about our loved ones. If we're seeing signs and symptoms that aren't quite right for that person, or we have
Right.
some flags going up in our mind, the longer the delay, the more difficult recovery can be. And so where it started off for me is just, passing thoughts. Now it's rumination, and it's
Mhm.
and I'm dreaming about not only myself dying, but my child with
Yeah,
me and things like that.
yeah. And so
Hmm.
Wow.
jumping into July 18th, um, the things that I was seeing is, she's just binging on chocolate, like 30 30 bars a day. It came up to.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it would be me just happening to go through the online banking. It's just like,
Wow.
How much chocolate are we buying? Yeah.
yeah. And then it would be I'd see a bunch of wrappers in the garbage can, and it made it look like they were eating all at once.
And they
So
were.
and with caffeine, you know, she was
Wow.
already not sleeping, and so now she's really not sleeping,
Oh yeah.
which is making her
Wow.
mad, and it's spiraling. You know,
Hmm.
like they like trying to be a nice, good husband concerned for her health. Should I? You need to give me your debit card. She's like, look, if you take my debit card, I'm gonna
Oh.
still give you chocolate.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
Wow.
it's not alcohol, it's not meth, it's not cocaine.
It was
I don't
chocolate.
want my wife to end up in jail over having to steal candy bars. I'm gonna let her keep the card, but Lord, like,
But he was
What are
talking
we
to
going
me
to
about
do?
my health, which was for me irritating, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
people do, and it's not his fault, but like for me, I'm like, if I don't have this, you just don't know. You just don't know what I'm
Mhm.
thinking.
yeah,
So,
Mhm.
and we know now from studies that sugar does act like cocaine. It
Oh,
really
yes.
does. It makes
Right.
it does the same thing in the brain
yeah,
that cocaine does, right? And
Mhm.
so that I didn't know that at the time, you know what I mean? But I just knew I had to have
Yeah.
it. I had to
yeah,
have it, and
And,
I more and more.
and I think we should add it's not just sugar. It
Yeah.
is not at all uncommon. As a matter of fact, it's a pretty regular thing that people who have suffered trauma and have not been able to process it or deal with it
Mhm.
develop addictions.
Yes.
Right.
And some of those addictions are socially unacceptable,
Right.
like
Mhm.
drugs or drinking, gambling, maybe. Some of
Illicit.
them have a veneer of acceptability.
Hmm.
Hey, so she eats a lot of chocolate, big deal.
Right.
But it might be binge watching YouTube. Y'all, please don't get off of here. If you've got an addiction right now, just stay with us till the end of this program.
there's
Yeah.
a
But yeah, but I'm just pointing out it can be anything. It might be shopping. It
Yeah.
might be
Right.
playing a certain video game over and over again. But it's an addiction that is trying to salve a wound that still hasn't healed.
Absolutely.
And Mia, I have to tell you, you know, there. I mean, first of all, hearing this, it really makes you have a better understanding because there are certain people who have these things that just that for somebody else on the outside to say, they go, "Oh, now come on, that doesn't make any kind of sense."
Right.
I knew a lady that she would go shopping, and I mean, go shopping.
Hmm.
I honestly every day the UPS truck or something
Yes.
was showing up, and packages were showing up, and I didn't know this, but I just thought that she just had that she just liked to shop a lot. Come to find out, she finally admitted to me what she was doing.
Yeah.
And come to find out, she would shop, take the stuff out, look at it, and she and want to send it back.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was some of the things she kept, but I would probably say 20% was kept, 80% was bought. And I finally asked her, I said, why do you do this? And I didn't put too much pressure on her, but she finally admitted, I have a joy of buying.
Yeah.
And after I buy it, I realized, well, I got too much. And I mean, just covered up in purses and all kind of stuff. And I was just like, why do you keep buying more? And it finally dawned on me. So it is that feeling that people need that release somehow. And that's what she would do. So it was always like having this revolving of buying and returning and buying and returning.
Yeah.
And thank goodness she finally got it under control, because it was like devastating financially, because she was like spending like crazy money just buying stuff, and then she had to wait for her to get her money back. And I was like, but now we understand from people's experience like yours and other things. So, I think that stigma of quote unquote, like you said, the crazy house, that keeps people from going to get help when they really should. And they should, and that demonization of getting help should be removed from society, because so many people are carrying things from the past. They're carrying issues and things, unresolved issues, pains, hurts. And when you start hearing a qualified person like yourself, Mia and Victor, talk about this, it really opens up people to going and getting help, and these are the type of things that help people on the job, in their relationships, in society. And that's what we need more. We need people stronger in themselves, mentally, spiritually as well, because we see these things in the news when people go and they go off on the job or something.
Absolutely.
And there are innocent people who had nothing to do with it are casualties in these things. And so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ramble too much, but and Nina, I also have your pictures if you need anything. I have
okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I love that you said that though, Rodney, because I mean, there's the study of ACEs, childhood traumas, and what science is telling us, and I mean, this is Mayo Clinic, this is multiple places, they're letting us know, a lot of things that we look at and we say, oh, this person, they're mental, or they're mental health. But actually, and one of my favorite authors actually says 90% of all diseases start in our mind. And so when we think about mental health, I really want us to not just think, oh, it's, psychosis or schizophrenia, but there are people who are battling with their health, their physical health. They have diabetes, they have cancer, they have high blood pressure, they have fibromyalgia, they have these different things. And the actual root could be something that is unresolved in their psyche, something that has happened to them that they have not been able to resolve, bring to conclusion, process, and it is making them ill, and they may not even realize that. And so some people, their mental health shows up as mine did, as psychosis or illness, and another person, they have a diagnosis of cancer. It's still connected to what's happening mentally. And some people don't realize that.
It's wonderful.
If you, I invite everybody to do this, Google any disorder you can think of and put the word stress next to it. Your mind will be blown. Like, you try with cancer stress, diabetes stress,
right,
fibromyalgia stress. Like, the ties to stress to like every disorder is crazy. And so it just lends back to what Mia was saying about that author that says 90% of all disease starts in the mind. You have a stressed out mind, or a stressed out childhood, or a stressed out marriage, and you end up developing some kind of disorder. Don't think that it's necessarily two separate things.
Right.
And I want to tie another link right here with what you just said, particularly because we just had been talking about the chocolate addiction that Mia had developed. There is a large body of research coming out now that indicates there is a strong link between what we consume, what we eat, and inflammation in our brain that also leads to mental illness, more
Absolutely.
depression, more psychosis, more paranoia. So I can imagine, and I'm sure you didn't know this at the time, and I wouldn't have known it, I don't think, but as you're seeing this addiction, this growing addiction to chocolate, it was probably even feeding that mental illness even further.
Oh,
Not just
yeah.
because it was an addiction, but because these
Wow.
things are not good for our bodies, and it's producing more inflammation and probably pushing her even further into that place of danger.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you said that, because when I hear you say that, it makes me think about the gut microbiome, right? This is what
Exactly.
I hear you speaking about, and how our gut, when our gut, the second brain of our body, is thrown off,
Right.
how it can actually be impacting our mental health. And that was totally what was happening for me. And it
Mhm.
even came to a point where it was just like with addiction to other substances, I didn't desire food. Like I lost my appetite for actual food. It's like I couldn't even really eat food. I had to, my
Wow.
food was the chocolate, you know? And
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and picking up with the story, like I said, I'm trying to fix stuff. So trying
Right.
to fix the car. Then I was like, well, maybe we can find some kind of counselor. We
Right.
found went to one twice, maybe another 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Things didn't all the way work out there. And so, I'm talking to our pastor that
Mhm.
married us. And, Mia had pretty much sworn me to silence, and
Right.
so
Right.
I could
Right.
tell anybody anything,
The shame.
fully, And so the pastor that married us, his name is T. Marshall Kelly. I talked to him for a friend. So,
Mhm.
friend whose wife is, exhibiting all these, what should my friend do? He said,
Right.
yeah, you need to pray. I said, you mean my friend needs to pray? He's
Right.
like, but isn't there anything he can do?
Mhm.
He said, your friend can't fix this. Only God can fix this. You need to pray. So I've never considered myself a prayer warrior, but at this point, that's all I had. Like, it's all I had. And so, praying for her, having to be careful what I say, because I want to set her off by saying God can help you, because she was just not
Oh yeah, I
there.
didn't want to hear anything
Right.
about
You
it at
know,
this point. I'm like, please don't even dare mention God to me whatsoever.
yeah,
Like I just
Mhm.
don't hear it at
yeah.
all.
So now it's July 18, 2017. It's around midnight, and I'm getting um, Facebook Messenger messages from my wife, pretty much saying goodbye. And I'm 3 hours away after a long, tiring day. And I knew if I got in the car, yeah, I was probably going to be the one to go first. Um, but because she was staying with family, I'm like, okay, I don't care what she said. I'm having to tell them what's going on. And so I let them
Right.
know what's happening, to keep an eye on her. I'll be there first thing in the morning, but don't let her leave,
Mhm.
all this stuff. And so, they did the best they could. She was trying
Right.
to go to Walmart for something. And he's like, I'm going with you,
That's
you know.
Victor's dad.
Right.
And so it
At
was,
midnight,
yeah,
he's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with you
yeah,
to Walmart.
yeah. And so anyway, so I'm driving now, like first thing in the morning, and I'm just like,
Wow.
nervous. But I'm just like, well, my parents, they got their eye on her and what's not. So
That's good.
I'm driving, and there was this place, and we'll talk more about it later. It's called Wildwood Lifestyle Center. Even though Mia was kind of not feeling God, we knew of the place. It's health center in North Georgia that specializes in like diabetes reversal, blood pressure. There's some of these lifestyle diseases
Cancer.
are reversible. They specialize in that through diet change, natural remedies like hydrotherapy,
Mhm.
other things like that. But they also had a depression recovery program. And so I had heard Mia call them. And I said, well, let me call them too, and learn about the program, see how much it costs. Not like we can afford it, but let me just find out what I can find out. And asked if they have any space coming up. And they said, at that moment they didn't have anything, but if something came up, they'd let me know. So I'm driving, and I'm driving through a storm. Just clouds, rain, thunder, lightning, all the things. But finally, got through that. And for whatever reason, what came to my mind was, you know, there's got to be a rainbow around here somewhere coming up pretty soon. And took a while before I saw it, but it eventually came. And I remember God saying to me, the rainbow didn't come when you expected it, but it came.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see why I needed that soon. So anyway, I get to Huntsville and I can't find my wife. I called my parents and they looked out like the car's gone. I'm like, the car's gone. Oh boy, breathe, breathe, breathe. And so I'm calling around. I'm driving around Huntsville trying to find my wife. Now Huntsville isn't a small place, but I'm just driving around looking, and I end up calling the office where I work. Like I said, we have a station in Huntsville, station in Sawyerville, and there was a volunteer there. And I said, "Hey, have you seen Mia?" And she said, "Yeah." I'm like, "Praise God." Where is she? I don't know, but she left the baby here. And that's where I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like, she did it. She really did it.
I can
Right.
only imagine your terror.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't leave the baby with anybody.
Yeah, she wasn't leaving the baby with nobody, and so but the spirit kept saying, "You don't know that. Keep praying." And so, I'm driving around calling hospitals, no Mia. I go police station, um, trying to put a missing persons report, but have me missing for 24 hours, and I'm there just like rocking. I'm just like close to tears. I'm just like, she did it. She's just like, you don't know that. Keep praying. So I'm driving around some more, and the thought came, let me call the hospitals again. And I call, and they said, yes, she's here. I didn't ask if she was dead or alive. I just drove straight to the hospital. They pointed me to a room. I didn't know what I was going to find. But I opened the door. My wife is laid up on the stretcher, sleeping. And I just fell at the foot of the stretcher. I saw her, and she woke up. And when she saw me, she covered her face. And I don't know if it was shame or what, but I didn't care. My wife was alive. She was in one piece. And I was just hugging her feet, and just really thankful. And at that moment, Wildwood called and said, "Hey, a space opened." I was like, "Thank God." That'll be a $300 deposit. I'm like, "Don't tell me about the deposit." Open the phone. We had exactly $300 left in savings. So like, here you go. And I was just obviously, really thankful. Um, but there was still a road. There was still a road, and going to Wildwood was definitely an experience. I don't even remember exactly how we ended up. We technically shouldn't have gotten let in financially,
Can I
but
pause you right there for just a second? But like, my heart just really goes out to the families whose story doesn't end that way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really tough because I remember what it felt like to be there at the end of your rope and just really tired and hopeless. And a lot of times when people are that sick or sad, family members can feel exasperated, like they've been going through what Victor's explaining, perhaps even for years. And sometimes when the person does actually complete suicide, they die by suicide, there can be a relief, and I'm not shaming anybody that does have that experience, because it's a part of the journey, I guess. It comes with it sometimes when you've just been living on pins and needles as a caregiver for
Mhm.
years, and then at least there's some type of resolve that happens, a relief that, okay, and now how do I pick up the pieces? And then just for those of us who do survive, trying to figure out how to rebuild,
Mhm.
Hmm.
so important, and to know that recovery is always possible. Recovery is always possible. It may look different for every person,
Hmm.
always possible. I wanted to just throw that in there, you know.
Right.
I'd like to add right there. I personally know
Yeah.
2 or 3 people who have had loved ones who died by suicide,
Yes.
and their expression to me is there's a very strong feeling of failure for themselves,
Right.
as if, I didn't do enough, or maybe if I had done this, or maybe if I hadn't done that, or um, maybe, maybe I didn't give them what they needed.
Mm.
And and it's a very traumatic event for the survivors.
Yes.
And what they live with after that for a
Mhm.
long time, they too
Yes.
need help,
Absolutely
to recognize that this was not on them. It's not their responsibility.
not. It's really not. And that's so, I'm so glad you brought that in, because that's important to know. And so in the experience, and Victor's going to pick back up, but one of the things that I learned is that when a person is suicidal, we should consider it as organ failure. Just like a person has a heart attack, their organ failed. And so the body is now doing what it would do if you had organ failure. Your brain has been made to keep you alive your whole life. Your brain is made to create homeostasis in your body, to do whatever it can to keep you alive for as long as possible. So when a person comes to a state of mind that they actually could end their life, it's considered stage 4, a
Mhm.
stage 4 organ failure. And so people often ask the question, well, why did you do that? Or why would you do that? And that person can't always give you an answer. Even if they have an answer, it's not really the answer. It may not be the answer, let's put it that way, because of that organ failure. Your brain is no longer working in the way that it would normally work. And
Mia,
so,
an
yeah,
I have an important question. Now, I've heard people say if a person says, I'm thinking about killing myself, they say, take it seriously. Don't
absolutely.
just, and then I've heard some pretty rough stuff where people try to quote unquote put tough love on people. And I had a buddy of mine that was, that it kind of came up. He had a son that was going through something, and his son had mentioned something like that. He says, well, just go ahead and do it. And I'm like, hey, man, don't say that. Are you kidding me? Don't say that. I was trying, and I'm not qualified in your capacity to say something like that. But how seriously do you take these things? Because and that's one of the things that I mean, it just makes my skin crawl. I understand that what you had went through and the reasoning behind it, but people they they don't know how much trauma and panic that could create. Because I've had people, say something like that and hang up the phone. Now now you're freaking out and you're trying to figure out, wait a minute, and you're like, well, do I do something? Do I call somebody? Do I call the police? Am I gonna blow this thing out in the ozone, into the public?
Right.
Mhm.
What should in some cases, how should people deal with that type of a comment? That's what I need to know.
Right, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. And so that's actually one of the things that we do is Pain Unwasted. I'm going to give some steps right now on the show, but I do
Hmm.
want you to know that it's going to be like, I'm just saying it quickly. But people
Hmm.
who want to take the training, please reach out to us. You can also reach out in your various areas to get trained in mental health first aid. It is, I believe everybody needs to have it. They even have it for teams so that teams can know how to help their friends who may be, struggling with their mental health. Okay.
Mhm.
Parents can learn how to do it with their children or fellow adults. And so, number one, because you asked that question, we always want to take it seriously, and we want
Right.
to let the person know that we're taking it seriously. We know that some people, they don't have coping skills. I mean, where are we learning coping skills? TV? Like, where are we learning it? And
Internet.
so a lot of people don't have good communication skills, good
Hmm.
coping skills, and some people use that as a means of control. Yes,
Right.
but there are vast majority of people that don't. They don't know how to actually get what they need, and this is their outlet possibly.
Hmm.
And if their brain is literally going into stage 4, this may be a real possibility for them. And we don't get to say how serious it is. We treat it seriously regardless, and we let them know. So A, and you can write this down, A, we always want to assess for risk of suicide or harm. If a person tells us, I just don't want to be here anymore, I wish I didn't have to wake up, or I'm going to kill myself one day, then we want to assess, okay, I heard you say this. Why are you saying this? How have you thought about when you would do something like this? That's part of your assessment. Do you know how you would do it? Have you thought about when you would do something like that? If they can answer those types of questions, then we definitely want to be connecting them to professional help ASAP, right? So a person
Hmm.
might say, "Oh no, I don't know when I do it, but by my birthday, maybe I won't be here." Well, that's a date in a sense, Or
Hmm.
I don't know how I do it. Maybe I just, lay on a train track. Okay, that's a plan still. You've thought
Mhm.
enough about this on how you would actually do something,
Mhm.
asking the person, do they actually have the means? Because some people, have acquired the means, like I've gotten a gun, or I've gotten the medication, or I've picked out which bridge, things like that. And so that's part of our assessment. L, which is the next letter, stands for listen without judgment. And this is super, super important because, somebody may say, my boyfriend broke up with me, I'm going to kill myself. Now, me, I'm going to be like, girl, he's not worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
Stupid of you to want to kill yourself or your boyfriend. Are you serious? But that's judgment. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm judging.
Oh.
I am
Hmm.
actually judging that person's level of attachment and commitment. I have no idea what that relationship really means to that person. We have no idea what that person means to that person. And so
Hmm.
we're going to listen and this is just a scenario, but we're going to listen without judgment. Tell me
Hmm.
more. Why do you feel this way?
Right.
When you say that you feel like you can't live without him, why are you saying that? What makes you feel this way? And then we listen, and we have good listening skills. And so we're not
Right.
on our phone and looking out the window and walking back and forth, but we're trying to actually be present. And then G, which is the next letter. So A, assess for risk of suicide or harm. L, we're going to listen without judgment. G, we're going to give them reassurance and information. We're going to assure them, like, wow, I hear you saying that, you really don't want to be here. Your boyfriend cheated on you, and you feel like you could kill him and yourself. I'm so glad you told me. That's what reassurance sounds like, giving reassurance. I'm just so glad you told me. I'm so glad we can talk. I can see how this could be distressing for you, because even if for me, I'm like, girl, leave them. Um, but this is that person's experience. And so I can
Hmm.
see how, and this is literally a statement I use with people. I can see how this is distressing for you. I can see how painful this is for you. And you're not alone. That's information. You're not alone. There are many people that feel this way. And there's resources out here. So now we go to E. The next letter is E, and that is encourage appropriate professional help, which is what my husband was doing, right? He was getting me connected to a service, Wildwood Lifestyle Center in Georgia, where I was going to be able to get help. I connected myself. I wound up connecting myself to going to the emergency room, right? And so that's another detail for another day. But we can encourage that person to seek professional help. Have you ever thought about talking to your doctor about this? Because some people, it's not a relationship. It's not, their job. They maybe can't pinpoint why they feel so down. They may feel like I felt like this since I was a kid and I'm just tired of it. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
to talk to their doctor, like, hey, you should consider I want you to consider talking to your primary care physician, because guess what? A primary care physician can rule out other underlying issues. Maybe this person is low in their vitamin D3. Maybe they have some other deficiency. Maybe some of their um um medications that they're already taking are causing problems. A lot of people don't know that senior citizens can actually have hallucinations because of urinary tract infections. And so,
Absolutely.
right. And so people are having this experience thinking, oh, I'm demon possessed, the devil's after me because of something I did. But they might have an infection, not only urinary, but some other infection, some other brain damage that has occurred. PTSD causes brain damage. There's so many things that your brain can easily be damaged by that can cause you to have these different nuances. And
Wow.
so, and the
Mhm.
last E is encourage appropriate self help strategies. And, there are some people in our lives that are not going to go to a therapist, or they've been there, done that. That's how they feel. And we can invite them to try self help strategies. What are those things? Some of them are, what is a really great book that can actually help give you information, right? Like The Body Keeps the Score is amazing, right?
Mhm.
Um, Finding the Gift in Depression by Changing Your Perspective. That's by Cornell Duplessis. She's one of my mentors. She's incredible.
Mhm.
um, we can also think about self-help strategies as like changing our environment, the power of getting outside in nature, and how
Yes.
healing and powerful it is for our brains. We're
Mm.
getting fresh air, we're getting sunshine, we're getting a change of scenery.
Workout, a little workout.
Is huge for boosting our moods. It can create and lowering our cortisol, boosting our endorphins, exercise, right? Getting into self-help groups or support groups are self-help strategies, because maybe this one-on-one with the therapist isn't working for me. Maybe I
Mhm.
need to be in a group where other people have experienced what I've experienced. Nina talks about
Mhm.
grief share and how powerful that was for her.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
A lot of these things can be free as well. And so there's more that can be said, but that would be the baseline where I would start.
Wonderful. Hey, and you said there was something special that you guys had that was like 40. What was it? What was this? What
No,
was,
no, that's something different. So
oh,
we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, let's let Victor pick up now and take the story from there. And
okay.
that
And
is such good information. I'm sorry we interrupted you, Victor, but I think so much of that was so necessary. And I love that we're talking about mental health first aid that we
Okay.
can render, that maybe even possibly might help people not get to that place of needing
Mm.
emergency resuscitation.
Right.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna try to wrap this up quickly because no time is going. But anyway, so we are on our way to Wildwood, and
Mhm.
I remember telling my wife, it's like, babe, when we get through this, God has a different platform of ministry for you, and I
Mhm.
on stages. And she couldn't hear it at the time,
Mm-mm.
but the seed was planted, and it's happening in
It
different ways.
is. It
I
is.
mean, we're not on like, you know, we're not stadiums or anything, but she definitely has been speaking to different churches and functions about her story, about different aspects of mental health, based on her, on her journey, our journey. But anyway, at Wildwood, we were there for about 4 weeks. It took about 2 weeks for her to really start taking in the program because it is a
Mhm.
faith-based place, and there's a lot of times she'd leave class early because you know somebody or the instructor said, well, God is good. Like, I'm out of here,
Yeah.
and I'm still having to pray. Like the pastor said, keep praying. I'm just like, no, she needs this. But about halfway through, there was a breakthrough, and the breakthrough was so potent that even the instructor, the facilitator, asked her in her healing process to talk to another person that was there for depression recovery to encourage them. And to fast forward just a few months later, Lord actually had called us to move, to leave the ministry we were with, to work there.
Yeah.
And we was still at home with our baby, and I was working in one of the offices. And but the facilitator, who's actually the author of that book Mia just mentioned, Cornell Duplessis, facilitator of the Depression Recovery Program, would bring Mia in at the beginning of every new 2-week program to share her testimony of what she had experienced and her experience at Wildwood. And she would say how the guests that heard Mia's message would that were like closed like she was when she first came in, would at a faster rate than she was used to seeing. Then
Wow.
about 7 months in, Cornell decides, I'm going back to school, and pretty much nominated Mia to take over the Depression Recovery Program. And
Wow.
so for
Yeah.
over a year and a half or so, Mia ran that program. And it was just thunderous, the testimonies that she would come back with. People that had been to therapists for years. Mia's not a therapist.
No.
But they said, I've gotten more from you in this one conversation than I have the years that I've been to therapy.
Wow.
And even since then, as we're running Pain Unwasted, wherever she speaks, there's definitely an impact that's felt. And I'm just really thankful to God to have been on this journey with her.
But I'm thankful for you, okay? Like I am thankful for my husband, because you already see, as you've been listening to him and hearing him, just the humongous heart that he has, just a really genuine, sincere, beautiful person. Like, this isn't pretend, and my heart hurts for what he went through because of me. Does that make sense? Like, my heart hurts, and yet I as a person, I'm just so grateful. I feel extremely blessed and spoiled by God, and not realizing that all around me were God's blessings, but I couldn't see them. I could only at the time see the pain and the trauma and the hurt, but I couldn't see that God had put someone in my life to be a source of strength for me, and care and concern. And whereas I was believing, I'm cursed, God has cursed me, you know what I mean? But here I was in the presence of such a huge blessing. And so that was a huge lesson that I'm still learning, is like, where your focus lies, there will your mind rest,
Wow.
And so my mind was resting in the hurt. And it's okay to go there, but not to stay, because when I came out of focusing so deeply on that, I could now see the beauty that was all around me, my beautiful daughter that was born alive and safe through everything that I was doing, you know what I mean? And my husband that's been here, And so, yeah.
And let me insert this because this is very important. So after having gone through all of that, there was healing that I needed to work
Absolutely.
on, because,
Yeah.
even though she was on the road to recovery, and even though she was teaching the program, like, I would still have anxious thoughts. I'd be in the office, and like, when I come home, I'm not going to find them dead on the floor, right? Like, and it took a while before I realized, hey, I think I need therapy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because you had experienced trauma too, just in a different way.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, I went to, a few counselors, and, just trying to find one that really fit. And it took maybe a year or two. But, by the grace of God, I got through the anxiety part that I was dealing with. And so caregivers, if you've been
Yes.
through trauma, trying to support a loved one, just know that, you need therapy too. You need to,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, recover from, even if they've recovered, you might still be walking on eggshells mentally or
Mhm.
something, and not even realize it. And so,
Mhm.
definitely, get some help.
And I want to add, the traumas that you go through as a caregiver are not necessarily marked with, catastrophic events.
That's true.
Just when you get that diagnosis that your loved one has Alzheimer's or has cancer or is slowly, in some other way moving toward eventually dying.
Yeah.
And it might even be a long process, but you're the caregiver and you're the one walking through every step of that with them. There are um, traumatic things that happen to us that are sudden, but there are
Yeah.
also traumatic things that happen that are long term that we're living with. And both of them can do damage here.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And that's why we all need help
Absolutely.
as we go through it and afterwards. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and we've already run out of time, but I want to shift
Mm.
for just a moment because
Uh-huh.
Rodney has some pictures and I want to share them with
Aha.
you because what y'all don't know, Victor is also a very gifted photographer.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
he has a campaign called 40 Over 40, a women's campaign featuring women who are over 40. He wanted to highlight them so that people would understand and have featured, I think, the beauty
Mhm.
of women who have been through life,
Yes.
been through so much of life, and how that has actually enhanced their beauty, not taken away from it.
That's right.
And he's
And with that said, speaking
yeah.
of think someone that has been through a lot and they are still beautiful, our very own Nina. Look at
Yes. Thank you. I was like, look at that cover model there.
Victor took that picture, y'all, and proof that he's talented. Because look how good I came out
Look
there.
at that.
Yeah.
I just captured the beauty that God already had in you.
That's right.
Oh,
So
thank you. Y'all are gracious, and thank you for that because that was a wonderful experience for me.
Great
And
study.
I highly recommend that to other women
Yeah.
that they have the opportunity to do that because I will tell you, you will never feel more honored
Mm.
than you are working with this couple in a setting like that. Recognizing that your battle scars are actually being elevated
Yes,
and
that's
not
wonderful.
something for you to be ashamed of or want to hide.
Yes.
So great experience, and thank you so much for that.
Everybody, I have one other little tip. This is also just kind of going to go back to an emergency plan. This is, I'm sending in the chat actually a very incredible organization, the California Firefighters Association, and they are called Firefighters on Your Side. Also, too, they have given in the chat, you can see this, I'm going to put this up right now. And matter of fact, I'm going to pop their name up on the screen. Everybody, make sure you get this and go to this website, firefightersonyourside.org, and then plan. And there is a 5-minute preparedness plan for you to get yourself together in case there's some kind of catastrophe. You need to be ready. And here is a emergency kit checklist right here. And they say basically you have an aluminum bottle for water, an emergency radio, a whistle, flashlight, extra batteries, first aid kits, N95 mask, disposable gloves, personal hygiene items. These are some of the things that you really, really need to get and have ready in case of an emergency. So just wanted to add that. And again, remember one more time, Paint Unwasted, of course, and also the firefighters on your side.org. Mia, you have been incredible. Paintunwasted.org. so many
Victor.
great things, so many great tips that are available. And we really appreciate you, Mia and Victor, for your story, for your strength.
Mhm.
And it's incredible, that the Lord has blessed you, and through your fight and tenacity, you're still here, and now you're actually passing on that knowledge to help others. So God bless you.
Thank
Amen.
Let
Amen.
me insert this because
Yeah.
she's probably not going to say it. But again, Mia is a mental health first aid instructor, and
Mhm.
so she teaches this course. And so,
Mhm.
if you're interested in the course, just go to panelwasted.org/contact, or go to the courses page on there. So you can learn how you can get signed up to take mental health first aid. It's an 8-hour certification course. It was powerful. If I had that training before things happened, then maybe things wouldn't happen. But if I had that training before things happened, then Pain No Wasted probably wouldn't be happening either. And so,
Mhm.
for what we went
God
through,
redeems everything.
yes,
everything.
she
Yeah.
also has a course on there that she made herself. That's also on the courses page. And I think this week we're gonna give a 75% discount
Yeah.
For the next 3 days if you use the discount code this way. And so,
Oh,
Wow.
thank you. We are honored by that. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So,
Wow.
and one more thing I want to ask: will you come back, both of you?
Yes. Thank you for having
Yes.
us. We can't
when I
wait.
can
Thank
get
you.
off
Thank
work
you.
on Monday, I will be here.
I understand it's a sacrifice, so I promise I will not abuse the privilege of asking. But I do want to have you back there. It didn't take very long today to understand. Oh my goodness, we could fill up hours talking about this whole subject, and there's so much we could learn. And so I'd love to have you both back
Yes.
together
Mhm.
to talk about this again.
Nina, can I please just say, if anyone is watching this and you're feeling unwell, unsteady, concerned about your mental health of that or someone else, 988 is a wonderful resource. You can text that number or you can call it and they can help you, even if you're not feeling suicidal, but you just need some resources in your area. 988. Okay. Share this with your young people because they can text it if they need privacy. They can text that number, and it's not a situation where they're just going to run you to the hospital, right? They know how to take you from a hot moment to a cool moment. If you get a person that you feel is not helpful when you call that line or text it, hang up and try again. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's like calling 911, but for mental health
Exactly.
issues. It's
Yeah.
Wonderful.
fantastic.
Thank you
And
so
thank you
much
for mentioning that. That was wonderful.
Thank you for those tips. Well,
All right.
Nina, it's been wonderful. Mia, Victor, thanks for being on with us. God bless you, everybody. You've been watching the This Way Network, and this is the chat session. And again, we're getting ready to let Nina close us out.
Y'all be of good courage. God is with us, and we aren't alone. Bye, everybody.
God bless. Have a great week, everybody.